Hello and welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving into something fun and useful for English learners of all levels: idioms. If you've ever heard phrases in English that sound confusing, like and wondered what on earth they mean, you're not alone. Idioms are these special phrases that mean something different from the actual words. They're a huge part of English, and learning them can really help you sound more natural and understand native speakers better. I'm Emma, and with me here is Max.
Hi, everyone. That's right, Emma. Idioms can be tricky, but they're also exciting because they add so much color to the language. When you learn idioms, you'll understand English in a way that makes it more alive and fun. Plus, you'll be able to speak in a way that sounds more like a native speaker. Today, we'll look at some simple strategies to learn idioms without feeling overwhelmed. So, if you're ready to learn English idioms and use them in everyday life, let's dive right in.
Okay, Max, let's start by breaking down what an idiom is. Idioms are phrases or expressions that mean something different from the literal meaning of each word. For example, if someone says, "It's raining cats and dogs," they don't mean that animals are falling from the sky. It just means that it's raining very heavily. So, learning idioms is not about understanding each word by itself, but understanding the meaning of the whole phrase.
Exactly, and here's a simple strategy to remember idioms. Try to visualize them. When you hear an idiom, picture it in your mind. Let's go with that example you just gave. Emma, it's raining cats and dogs. Close your eyes and imagine a cartoon where cats and dogs are actually falling from the sky. It's a funny picture, and it helps your brain remember the idiom better because now you have a picture attached to it. Visualization can really help make idioms stick in your mind.
Great tip, Max. Visualization really does work. Another strategy is to group idioms by theme or topic. So, let's say you're learning idioms about weather. You can focus on idioms like under the weather, which means feeling sick, or take a rain check, which means to delay something or do it another time. Grouping similar idioms helps you see connections between them, and it's easier to remember them as a set rather than individually.
I love that strategy, Emma. Grouping by theme can really make things simpler. Another way to learn idioms is by using them in sentences that relate to your own life. When you make it personal, it's easier to remember. So, if I wanted to remember the idiom hit the books, which means to study hard, I might say, "Tonight, I really need to hit the books because I have a big test tomorrow." Try practicing sentences like that, and you'll see how idioms start to feel more natural.
Absolutely, and don't worry about trying to learn too many idioms at once. Learning idioms is not a race. You can start with just a few that you really like or find interesting. Maybe you can write them down in a notebook and review them every few days. Choose idioms that make you laugh or that you think you could use often.
Good point, Emma. I always suggest learning in small steps because it can be overwhelming if you try to learn dozens of idioms all at once. Let's talk about another technique that's helpful: using idioms in conversations. It's one thing to know an idiom, but using it naturally is a different skill. So, try using new idioms when you talk with friends or even in practice conversations. If you don't have anyone to practice with, talk to yourself or try saying them out loud.
Yes, practice is so important. And if you can, try listening to native speakers to hear how they use idioms in real situations. Watching movies, TV shows, or listening to podcasts where people use everyday language can give you a feel for when and how idioms are used. You'll start to see that certain idioms are used in specific situations. For example, the idiom "break the ice" is often used when meeting someone new to make things less awkward.
Listening to native speakers is an amazing way to learn. And remember, it's okay if you don't understand idioms right away. Sometimes idioms don't make sense at first, but as you hear them more, you'll start to pick up on the meaning. So don't stress if you feel confused at first. Learning idioms is a journey and it takes time.
That's so true. Learning idioms is a bit like solving a little puzzle each time. It's okay to take your time with them. And here's another idea. You can create flashcards. Write down the idiom on one side of the card, and on the other side, write the meaning and maybe even a short sentence. Go through your flashcards whenever you have a spare moment, like when you're on the bus or waiting for something. It's a quick way to review.
Flashcards are a great idea, Emma. I used them a lot when I was learning languages. And I found that they helped because I could go over them again and again. Repetition really does help the brain remember things better. You can even get creative with your flashcards. Maybe add a little drawing of the idiom to make it fun.
Yes, have fun with it. Learning doesn't have to be serious all the time. The more fun you make it, the more you'll enjoy learning English.
All right, everyone, let's keep going with our journey to learn English idioms. Now, if you joined us earlier, we've been talking about ways to make learning idioms easier and more fun. Let's dive into some more strategies and even look at a few new idioms that might be useful for everyday conversations. So, Emma, how about we start with one of the most important tips for learning anything new: consistency?
Absolutely, Max. Consistency is key when learning idioms. If you make a habit of practicing and reviewing a little each day, it helps your brain get used to these expressions. Even 5 minutes a day can make a big difference. Think of it like watering a plant. If you water it regularly, it grows stronger and healthier. And with idioms, reviewing a few each day will make them feel natural and easy to use.
Great comparison, Emma. Just like watering a plant, you have to keep at it little by little. And when you learn an idiom, try repeating it out loud. This might feel a bit strange at first, but saying an idiom out loud can help you feel more confident when using it in real conversations. Speaking them out loud helps your mouth and mind get used to the new phrase. You could even look in the mirror and pretend you're talking to someone. It helps build your confidence.
That's such a good point, Max. It might feel silly at first, but it really works. And you know what else helps? Writing down the idioms you learn. Get yourself a notebook or even use an app on your phone and write down each new idiom you come across. When you write it down, you're not just remembering it in your head, you're also physically engaging with it, which helps it stick.
Yes, I totally agree. Writing things down helps you remember better because you're actively using your hand and brain together. Plus, if you keep all your idioms in one notebook, you can go back and review them whenever you want. Imagine, after a month or two, you'll have pages full of idioms that you can use. It's a great way to see how much you're learning and to feel proud of your progress.
Exactly. And speaking of keeping track, another idea is to write down examples of how people use idioms. When you're watching a show, listening to music, or reading a book, and you come across an idiom, write it down with the sentence it was used in. Seeing how it's used in a real-life context helps you understand when and how to use it yourself.
Yes, that's actually one of my favorite methods. When I was learning English idioms myself, I'd write down examples from TV shows or movies. Let's take an example like barking up the wrong tree. If you see it in a sentence like, "If you think I took your sandwich, you're barking up the wrong tree," it helps you understand that it means accusing the wrong person or making a wrong guess. Real-life examples make everything clearer.
That's a perfect example, Max. And when we talk about idioms, it's also good to remember that they often come with a lot of emotion or feeling behind them. For example, let's talk about the idiom bite the bullet. This means to face something difficult with courage. You might say, "I didn't want to go to the dentist, but I had to bite the bullet." It's an expression you can use when you need to do something hard but necessary.
Right, and you see, idioms are not just about words, they carry a story or a feeling. So, when you learn an idiom, try to think about the emotion behind it. This will make it easier to remember. For example, when you hear bite the bullet, imagine someone taking a deep breath and preparing to do something tough. That mental picture, along with the feeling, helps the idiom make sense.
I love that, Max. And here's another tip. don't stress about using idioms perfectly at first. If you're not sure how to use an idiom, it's okay to wait and keep listening to it in real conversations. Sometimes, just hearing it a few more times will give you a natural feel for how and when to use it. There's no rush. Idioms will come to you as you keep practicing.
Absolutely. In fact, sometimes even native speakers use idioms differently depending on the context. So don't worry if it doesn't feel perfect right away. Just keep learning, and soon using idioms will start to feel more comfortable. And let's go over another easy idiom, shall we? How about on the same page? This one is used when you want to say that you agree or understand each other.
Good one, Max. Like if I say, I think we should focus on learning one idiom a day, and you respond with, yes, I'm on the same page. It means you agree with me. It's an easy way to show you're thinking along the same lines as the other person. So it's useful in conversations when you want to connect with someone and show that you agree.
Exactly, Emma, and remember, idioms can be used in both casual and more formal conversations, but some idioms are better for certain situations. For example, you wouldn't use hit the hay, which means go to sleep, in a very formal setting. But with friends, it's perfect. You can just say, I'm tired. I think I'll hit the hay now. Understanding the context where each idiom fits best is part of the fun of learning.
That's a really good point, Max. Context matters a lot with idioms. And as you're learning, remember to enjoy the process. Try to laugh at the funny images and think of idioms as little secrets or codes that make English more interesting. It's okay if they seem confusing at first. Over time, you'll get the hang of it.
Absolutely, Emma, and sometimes you'll find idioms that you fall in love with. Maybe they're funny, or maybe they just feel good to say. I remember when I first heard piece of cake to mean something easy. I thought it was such a funny way to say that. So, find idioms that you enjoy and practice using those first.
That's great advice, Max. And learning idioms doesn't have to be serious, it can be fun. If you come across an idiom that makes you laugh, like kick the bucket for dying, which sounds funny, then you're already halfway to remembering it. The more you have fun with idioms, the more you'll enjoy using them.
Exactly, and as we wrap up our discussion here, let's go over a few of the idioms we mentioned so far. We talked about bite the bullet, which means to face something tough with courage, on the same page to show agreement, hit the hay to go to sleep, and piece of cake to say something is easy.
Yes, and don't forget barking up the wrong tree, which means making a wrong guess or blaming the wrong person. These are some basic but really useful idioms to get you started. And as you listen, remember that each idiom has its own story, its own image, and its own feeling.
Exactly, and we'll keep exploring even more idioms to help you build your confidence and make learning English enjoyable. So keep these tips in mind, practice whenever you can, and enjoy the journey of mastering idioms.
Hi, everyone. Let's continue with our journey of mastering English idioms. We've already talked about some useful strategies and looked at a few fun idioms. Now, let's dive even deeper with some new idioms, and we'll discuss more techniques for remembering them. So, let's get started with an idiom that's all about hard work and dedication. Burning the midnight oil.
That's a great one, Emma. Burning the midnight oil means staying up late, usually to work or study. Imagine someone who's so focused on getting their work done that they stay up very late, long after everyone else has gone to bed. So, if you say, I had to burn the midnight oil to finish my project, it means you worked very hard, even if it meant losing sleep.
Exactly, Max. And this idiom is especially helpful if you're talking about preparing for something important, like an exam or a big presentation. And here's a tip. When you're learning idioms, try to imagine yourself using them. For instance, if you've ever stayed up late to finish a project or study for a test, think about that memory when you hear burning the midnight oil. Connecting the idiom to your own experience can make it easier to remember.
That's such a good point, Emma. Linking idioms to real experiences can make them feel more natural. And another trick is to use idioms in your daily journal. If you keep a diary or journal, try writing down a few sentences with an idiom or two each day. Even if it's a simple sentence like, I burned the midnight oil finishing my homework, writing it out helps you practice and remember.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be perfect either. Just using idioms, even in a short sentence, helps make them feel familiar. Speaking of which, another idiom that's great for everyday conversations is break the ice. You might have heard this one before. It means to start a conversation in a way that makes everyone feel comfortable, especially in a new or awkward situation.
Right, like if you're meeting new people or starting a conversation with someone you don't know well, you might say, let's play a game to break the ice. It's a way to make people feel more relaxed. And it's such a useful phrase in social situations. Imagine you're in a new class or at a work meeting. Breaking the ice can help everyone feel more at ease.
Exactly, Max. And if you want to remember it, think about something simple you could do to break the ice with a new friend. Maybe you could ask them about their favorite movie or even tell a funny story. Associating idioms with real actions or things you might do makes them much easier to remember.
Absolutely. Let's go over another idiom that I think a lot of people will find helpful. How about hit the nail on the head? This one means to be exactly right or to say something that's completely accurate. For example, if someone says, I think you're stressed because of work, and that's exactly how you feel, you can say, you hit the nail on the head.
Yes, that's a good one, Max. And to remember this idiom, try visualizing a hammer hitting a nail perfectly. It's a way of saying that something was done exactly right. This idiom is often used to agree with someone when they make a good point or an accurate observation. It's very common, so it's a great one to practice.
And speaking of common idioms, here's another. Under the weather. If someone says they're feeling under the weather, it means they're not feeling well, maybe a little sick or tired. It's like saying they're not feeling like their usual self. For example, I'm feeling under the weather today, so I'm going to rest.
Yes, that's a useful one too. This idiom is great because it's something you might hear in daily life. And for remembering under the weather, think about how bad weather can make you feel a bit down or tired, just like when you're feeling sick. Making that mental link can help you remember it more easily.
Exactly, Emma, and while we're talking about everyday idioms, let's cover one that's really positive. The ball is in your court. It's used when it's someone's turn to make a decision or take action. For example, if you're discussing plans with a friend and they're waiting on you to decide, you might say, the ball is in your court, to let them know it's their turn to decide.
Great choice, Max. And if you're learning this idiom, picture a tennis game where the ball has been hit to the other side. It's now up to the other player to make the next move. It's a friendly way to say, it's your decision or it's up to you now. This idiom is especially helpful in conversations where you're trying to be polite or give someone else control over the decision.
Perfect, and here's another tip for remembering idioms. Talk about them with a friend or language partner. Practicing idioms in a conversation, even if it's just a practice conversation, makes them feel more real and helps you understand how to use them naturally.
That's a great suggestion, Max. And if you don't have a language partner, you can even practice using idioms with family members or write imaginary dialogues in your notebook. Pretend you're talking to someone and include the idioms in your sentences. This helps make idioms part of your natural vocabulary.
Absolutely, Emma, and sometimes using an idiom in the right situation can make you sound more fluent, almost like a native speaker. It's a small thing, but it can make a big difference. Let's share one last idiom that's easy to remember and useful. Spill the beans. This one means to accidentally reveal a secret or share information that was supposed to be kept private.
Yes, like if you're planning a surprise party and someone accidentally tells the person, you might say, oh no. You spilled the beans. It's a funny way to talk about revealing a secret. And it's helpful to think of it as literally spilling something. It can't go back in the container once it's out. This visual can help you remember it.
Exactly, Emma, and it's important to remember that idioms don't always mean exactly what the words say. They're like little puzzles. If you take time to learn each one, they start to make sense, and before you know it, you'll be able to use them easily.
That's so true, Max. And for everyone listening, remember that learning idioms is a process. Don't feel pressured to remember every single idiom you come across. Pick a few that you really like or that feel easy to remember, and start using those first. Over time, you can add more as you get comfortable.
Absolutely, Emma, and don't forget learning idioms can be fun. They're a great way to make your English sound more colorful and natural. So keep practicing, use these tips, and you'll find yourself understanding and using idioms more easily with time.
Yes, and thank you all so much for joining us on this journey to master English idioms. We hope these strategies and examples help you feel more confident in using idioms in your conversations.
And if you enjoyed this podcast, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and share this video with your friends and family. We're here to help you on your English learning journey, and we'd love to see you in our next episode.
Yes, thank you for being with us, and keep practicing. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.